Niggas died 1865.
Yeah. Hey man, all I'm saying is, nigga, you always got something to say. It's like you don't shut up.
Blazing on the track.
A lot of niggas died 1865. Single Michael fled high, I ain't gon' let it ride. Everybody hiding black was never on your side. They do maps to tell your apps where you sleep at night. They put that white man on. Got you begging them for answers like that white man know. Had you swearing you was African, that's that white man home. Had you proud to be a savage, that's that white man's zone. And I ain't talking shit, this by definition. And being savage was our nature, y'all be non-existent. We done took your ass out when we was in them kitchens. Instead of showing you how to live and how to maintain business. White supremacy fake. Only way that shit real is if you do what they say. We the God to the gate. So when they say they fear God, now you know what they made.
I know them niggas ain't fucking with, I keep my dignity. I know them niggas don't want no pockets on this swing for you. Yeah, all big ass glizzy. My mama tell me all the time, baby, you gonna be a star. But she don't even like right now. For real. I let your dog in the young that they won't be your peak. I had to start fucking with niggas, I knew they wouldn't fuck with me. And I can't wait to run touch, we gon' run the mix. Shit, I can't wait to scope touch, we gon' kill the niggas. I know them niggas ain't fucking with me, that's why I brought the blitz. I know them niggas ain't fucking with me, that's why I put an extension. I know them niggas ain't fucking with me, y'all make your mama bitch. I had to move up out my mom's house, I couldn't bring the attention. Cause when I leave about this bitch, I gotta bring the kiss. Hey, when I leave about this bitch, I don't know if I'll come back in. And if you really active, nigga, you know what I'm feeling. I told my niggas move out, cause we on a mission. My girl be telling me chill out, cause she need a nigga. And plus my son, he getting older, that's my little nigga. It ain't shit I wouldn't do for my fucking children. And making it back home and up, you know I ain't playing with you. I hear them niggas talking like I'll keep that playing with you. I heard some niggas wanna ride me down, play with niggas. They know we keep those splits, burn me, let smoke on niggas. I'm tired of bitch ass niggas act like we don't know a nigga. I'm tired of bitch ass niggas act like we won't get with them. I feel like you gotta pimp me, I swear y'all be ignoring niggas. I feel like you gotta pimp me, young nigga, I keep a Jordan with me. I feel like you gotta pimp these 3-3s, they a hit a nigga. Yeah, these 3-3s a hit a nigga. I feel like you gotta pimp me, young nigga, I keep a Jordan with me. I keep a Jordan with me. I feel like you gotta pimp me, young nigga, I keep a Jordan with me. I know dog in the gun, that nigga won't be your beat. I had to start fucking with niggas, I know won't fuck with me.
Shout out to all the American Aborigines in the chat, man. It's your brother, Big Aboriginal Power. Make sure y'all hit that like button. This is the Wake and Bake Show. Let everybody know what y'all smoking on and where y'all at this Grand Rising.
That's why I put an extension. I know them niggas ain't fucking with me. I make your mama bitch. I had to move about my mama's house. I couldn't bring attention. Yeah. I couldn't bring attention. I had to move about my mama's house. I couldn't bring attention. And when I leave about this bitch, I gotta bring attention.
Share the live stream. Hit that like button. Thumb up the video, man. Shout out to all the American Aborigines, man. Peace and blessings, man. Let's get into the Wake and Bake Show, man. This is the Wake and Bake Show. And this is your brother, Big Aboriginal Power.
Yeah. Hey man, all I'm saying is, nigga, you always got something to say. It's like you don't shut up.
Blazing on the track.
A lot of niggas died 1865. Single Michael fled high, I ain't gon' let it ride. Everybody hiding black was never on your side. They do maps to tell your apps where you sleep at night. They put that white man on. Got you begging them for answers like that white man know. Had you swearing you was African, that's that white man home. Had you proud to be a savage, that's that white man's zone. And I ain't talking shit, this by definition. And being savage was our nature, y'all be non-existent. We done took your ass out when we was in them kitchens. Instead of showing you how to live and how to maintain business. White supremacy fake. Only way that shit real is if you do what they say.
See my life has been in motion. I'm a little windy. I'm not giving up yet. If you with me, time to place up your bet. Ain't no turning back, got niggas who ran. When we caught his ass, got caught in that jam. Yeah, you know who I am. Yeah, you know who I am. I can feel it coming. I can feel it coming. It's that feeling in your stomach, you can feel it coming. It's that feeling in your stomach, you can feel it coming. Yeah, you can feel it coming. Fake love, snake you in your face, love. That snake you in your face, love. I told my brothers we gon' make it, that's how God wrote it. And the snake gon' show his face, cause that's how God wrote it. Too much fake love, that snake you in your face, love. That snake you in your face, love. I told my brothers we gon' make it, that's how God wrote it. And the snake gon' show his face, cause that's how God wrote it. Too much fake love, that snake you in your face, love. That snake you in your face, love. I told my brothers we gon' make it, that's how God wrote it. And the snake gon' show his face, cause that's how God wrote it.
So dope, my eyes low. When you move like God, the time slow. I came back for the blacks and John Doe's. Crack open them land patents, let go of them townhomes. What's a native to a native? He $5 dough if he not melanated. Pale faces got you waiting on a savior. Sending prayers up, he texting back on vacation. God's children, give all your praise to Jesus, but how God feeling? He say put no one before him in divine image. It's you with God of Christians. I got a vision, but niggas ain't gotta listen, so they don't. We came from the soil, wasn't fucking with no boats. Bible took our spirit, English potted on our homes. Tribal families turned on us, don't act like y'all don't know. But fuck them and they grudges. We was something turned to nothing. And now we nothing's turned to somethings. Reincarnation of ancients, fresh up out the oven. This the message to the black man. 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 Shooters on my roof, lawyers in the coop. We can never die, bitch, we bulletproof. This the message to the black man. This the message to the black man. Say you wasn't slaves, you was prisoners of war. You stop wasting your time, these other bitches ain't important. You ain't meditating, you ain't mating with the sauce. Like what the fuck's a noodle if you ain't painted with the sauce? I find it hard to trust the pastor who rather side with the master, who preaching we should submit while getting murdered and captured. About how we should wait on God is never our vernacular. They get
Suave on the track.
Whatever it takes. The alleyway.
Coco, this your season right now.
They won't see me. They won't let me I gotta sleep with one eye open, been making me nervous. I take a piss, my hand on the stirrup. I know the eyes wanna murder. I got a feeling, keep my stomach paranoid. I won't let them, they won't see me, I gotta sleep with one eye open, been making me nervous. I take a piss, my hand on the stirrup. I know the eyes wanna murder. I got a feeling, keep my stomach paranoid. I can't let them, they won't see me, I put attention, all of my blood, all of my veins. They started with perky, now that hair on them is veins. You started with serving, now them drugs drove you insane. Started with dealing, I grew up with killers, they taught me the game. I got some niggas that die behind, and that shit won't never the same. I know some niggas that lie behind, and that bullet had his name. Ain't no reason to cry about, cause that shit won't never change. MTF the 4th and P, my niggas can't get out the game. I gotta sleep with one eye open, been making me nervous. I take a piss, my hand on the stirrup. I know the eyes wanna murder. I got a feeling, keep my stomach paranoid. I won't let them, they won't see me. I gotta sleep with one eye open, been making me nervous. I take a piss, my hand on the stirrup. I know the eyes wanna murder. I got a feeling, keep my stomach paranoid. I can't let them, they won't see me.
Lost, see, I glossed too, we shit ain't been the same. Heard the ops talking to the
vibes, man. What's going on with it, man? It's your brother, Big Aboriginal Power. Make sure y'all hit that like button, tap in, support the channel, man. Tap in. Make sure y'all hit that like button, man. Y'all know this is gonna be one of the ones right here, right? Y'all know this is gonna be one of the ones, right? I want y'all to pay motherfucking close attention to what's going on. Make sure y'all support the channel, man. Make sure you hit that like button, man. This is your brother, Big Aboriginal Power. I want to say peace and blessings to all the American Aborigines in the chat. If you ain't following me on Instagram, make sure you go follow me on Instagram at Big Aboriginal Power. Big_Aboriginal_Power. All right. If you're not following me on Twitter, make sure y'all go follow me on Twitter at Power Aboriginal. Power Aboriginal on Twitter, man. Make sure y'all follow me, man. Make sure y'all supporting the channel, man. For real. I got another fire classic bill for you guys. Listen, this is gonna be one of the ones. I told you I'm coming with heat every day this week. Every day this week I'm coming with heat. Shout out to the realest chat on motherfucking YouTube right now. Shout out to the realest chat on YouTube right now. Shout out to the realest chat YouTube right now. Can I get everybody to drop them fire emojis and thumb up the video? This is the Wake and Bake Show. So also let me know what city or state you in and what y'all smoking on this grand route. And what, you know what I mean? I want to say shout out to 2 a.m. I did receive my memorabilia and my gear. I will be taking a photo shoot in the gear so y'all can see the gear. We drippy with the Aboriginal shit around here, man. We dropping that drip, man. You know, I'm the drip guy. Drip check, drip check. Drip check, man. You already know the fucking vibes, man. It's your brother, Big Ab. We got the Aborigines in the chat, man. Y'all see the bill yesterday? If you ain't check it out, go check it out. Definitely a fire bill. If you ain't following me on my new channel, my Battle Rap Wizards channel, make sure y'all go follow me on the Battle Rap Wizards channel, okay? The link to that is in the description box, so y'all be able to go check out my actual channel. The new channel, the Battle Rap channel. We do have some battles coming up on that platform. You see what I'm saying? We got Out the Blue 40 versus Big Aboriginal Power, the rematch. We got Trey Main in the rematch with him. So yeah, man, we got some shit. We got some shit. We got some real shit up in this motherfucker. So make sure y'all tap me in. Make sure y'all tap me in. Y'all see the channel. Links to the new channel, the Battle Rap channel, is in the description box. So make sure y'all go hit that description box. Run up from the channel. Somebody said we in Pennsylvania. Running back gangs, where you at, gang? Where you at in PA, bro? Let me know where you at with it, man. You might have to pull up on Big Ab today, man. You can pull up to the store. If you're in the Delaware area, let me know what's up. We're gonna link in. We locking in with all Aborigines this 2022 summer, man. All Aborigines in the DMV or in the tri-state areas, make sure y'all hit me up. My brother Tayshawn hit me up. He was like, yo, I'm in PA. I'm like 3 hours away. I wish you was a little closer. I would have definitely pulled up on my guy. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Y'all see the title, man. Y'all see the title, right? Y'all see the title, right? Why they lie about American Aboriginal and Indian history of the mound builders. You know what I mean? We'll get into the Dane Calloway versus Tariq Nasheed on the back end, but we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this shit right now. Let me know if y'all in Cali. I'm going to let you know, Ben. I'll be out that way real soon. I'm in GA. Okay. Somebody said GA Runts. Where y'all at, man? What y'all smoking on, man? Y'all just telling me where y'all at. Y'all ain't telling me what y'all blowing on. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Let's try to get 100. Let's try to get 200 people in here before the 30-minute marker, man. Let's try to get 200 people in here. In order to do that, man, I'm gonna need each and every one of you guys to share the live stream. I need each and every one of you guys to share the live stream. Tayshawn, Big Chief, Fuck You Crackers, Marcus, Big Dog Philly OG, Juice, Darius Matthews. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Brandon Rogers, man. General Peace, Bright Mo, Eastside 1415. I need all y'all to share the live stream. Share the live stream. Man, I ain't gonna hold y'all any longer, man. I'm about to light the wood up right now. Light my wood up. It's time to put fire in the hole, man. Let's get straight into the meat and potatoes. Why they lie about early American mound builders history. Let's get straight into the build I got lined up for you guys. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Drop them fire emojis. If y'all ready, drop them fire emojis. Y'all ready? Drop them fire emojis. Let's get it.
Encyclopedia of mound builders and earthworks in the continental USA. Later, we'll also hear from Melissa Tittle on her understanding out here about that the Maya to Maya. It's the Sacred Pyramid Tour scheduled for November 17th through the 24th, and we'll be flying into Merida. We have a couple of spaces left. If you're interested in joining us, we got about 4, maybe 5. We can squeeze one other person in there. This is undoubtedly the best tour of the year for those of you who want to see an ancient culture, things to show us, anomalous things that reveal send me an email, send it to cliff@earthancients.com, Campeche Museum. And I discovered a few years ago, actually I discovered it probably 7 years ago, and then visited it went to visit it a couple of years ago. Hey,
make sure y'all support the channel too, man. We got the $2 challenge going on, man. And we want every Aboriginal to support the Aboriginal movement. Shout out to Chief Holiday, shout out to Al TV. I definitely support them brothers, man. When I see them live, I support them. We gotta support the real, we gotta support the movement. Y'all want to support the channel, Cash App tags at the bottom right of the screen. PayPal and Cash App tag is going across the screen, ticking across. So make sure y'all support the channel. For real, it's very important for you guys to hit that like button, thumb up the video, share the live stream, and support the channel, man. Shout out to the American Aborigines out there. Make sure y'all be peace and bliss out there, man. Shout out to everybody, man.
It's a standing stele. It's a standing stone marker that the Maya used to describe kings, describe events, give some timetables. That is extremely old. I think it's a couple of thousand years old. But even if it's 1,000 years old, what's on there is fantastic. There is a number of small figures and one major figure who is wearing a spacesuit. And I call this the spaceman stele simply because unlike some of the other stele and carvings with people wearing helmets, this individual is wearing a very serious helmet, a helmet that covers his entire head. There's a quality to his face they try to represent glass or some kind of enclosure. His entire body is enclosed or is clothed with a suit of some kind. And what really makes this a unique image or carving is that he's carrying some kind of gun, ray gun, power gun, or whatever. And he's got heavy gloves on, sub-zero and atmospheric clothing. And it's just very remarkable. I have posted a number of photographs from this stele on the Facebook page that you can look at. This will be one of the places we go to on this tour. Now, we've heard from a number of people who talk about a celestial war. The Hindus write about it in the Vedas of a galactic war between races. This could be evidence of that war. It could be evidence of a space war that was fought over planet Earth, over Mars. Mars is a dead planet. We've heard from Dr. John Brandenburg that it was killed off simply with the use of nuclear weapons that destroyed the atmosphere. But when you see this individual,
hey man, we almost got 100 people in the chat. We got 87 people in here. Hit that like button, share the live stream. I want to make sure all the audio is clear to you guys. Can y'all hear everything loud and clear? You know what I'm saying? Can y'all hear everything loud and clear? If you can, drop them fire emojis. Let Big Ab know that you can hear it. Make sure y'all run up them lights.
Mars is a dead planet. We've heard from Dr. John Brandenburg that it was killed off simply with the use of nuclear weapons that destroyed the atmosphere. But when you see this individual carrying a gun, and by the way, I have seen hundreds of stele, these standing markers. I have never seen a gun like this before. I've never seen any weaponry of this magnitude. And when you see it, it's very unique. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. You'll never see anything like this again. Check it out. It's from Edzna, which is one of the ancient ruins we've gone to. We will go to, and this figure you can see up close and personal. I'll talk about it when we go check it out. So again, if you want to,
this nigga said it's a stele. It's a stele out there with a carving of a man that's in a spacesuit that look like he has a gun. This nigga look like he has a gun. Like what? So you telling me that these niggas had straps back 3,000 years ago? Shout out to Craig for the Cash App donation supporting the channel, and shout out to Marcus Adum for the PayPal donation. We appreciate all the support. Shout out to Marcus Adum, and shout out to the brother Craig for the Cash App donation. Y'all don't let Craig and Marcus be the only ones support the channel. PayPal tags going across the screen, Cash App tags at the bottom right of the screen by the Grizzly Bear, man. Let's continue this build. Y'all heard what he's saying, though? Let me run that back so y'all understand this.
War that was fought over planet Earth, over Mars. Mars is a dead planet. We've heard from Dr. John Brandenburg that it was killed off simply with the use of nuclear weapons that destroyed the atmosphere. But when you see this individual carrying a gun, and by the way, I have seen hundreds of stele.
So my niggas was toting the straps 3,000 years ago. So when they named them tote techs, was they literally toting techs around? Did they have Tech 9s? Huh?
These standing markers. I have never seen a gun like this before. I've never seen any weaponry of this magnitude. And when you see it, it's very unique. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. You'll never see anything like this again. Check it out. It's from Edzna, which is one of the ancient ruins we will go to, and this figure you can see up close and personal. I'll talk about it when we go check it out. So again, if you want to go on this tour, if you want to be one of the remaining 4 or 5 people, send me an email. Send it to cliff@earthancients.com. And you can see the entire itinerary on the Facebook, on earthancients.com/tours. It's all on there.
Yeah, nigga, I'm the new ancient aliens, nigga. I'm telling you that the aliens are you. They saying the aliens, but they really you. Ain't nobody come from no other planet, nigga. We was going to other planets, nigga. I'm gonna tell y'all about the story of how the Inca went to the moon and got seeds, and the seeds that they brought back is the vegetable that we call potato. That's a deep history. The Incas documented that, man. I'm gonna talk about that later on.
Today's program is brought to you by Audible, and hey, Audible is giving new members 30-day trial. Pass the time without the inconvenience of holding a book and reading a book. You can be driving, you can be walking with advanced drivers. Since 2011, he's had over 67 million views of his unusual videos, and that's because he goes to remote parts of India as well as other places around the world. But India is the focus that I'm concentrating on, and he visits these temples that are thousands and thousands of years older than what the current crop of scientists have established. They think they've established, and the anomalous sculptures are not.
They've been lying about the timeline since the beginning. So once we have a clear agreements and understanding that the timeline that modern science, contemporary science pushes is incorrect, then you understand that we're looking into a more elusive, vivid story that stretches farther back than what history is alluding to. So we actually decode and break down the fact that our history goes back millions, octillions of years, and they're only explaining the 1% that they have discovered through archaeology.
Not only highly anomalous or highly than what the current crop of scientists have established. They think they've established, and the anomalous sculptures are not only highly anomalous or highly unusual, but they're extremely revealing. And Praveen gives us a real good insight into historic
Hey, moderators, I need all my moderators to constantly tell people in the chat to hit the like button and to share the live stream and to support the channel. I need y'all moderators to turn up in the chat for me. All moderators turn up in the chat the whole live for me. One good time. Shout out to my moderators out there, man. They're the realest out there. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my moderators. Tell them, get them on the board, get them sharing the live, supporting the channel, hitting them like buttons, man. Shout out to all the American Aborigines in the chat. Make sure y'all share the live stream and run up those likes, man. Shout out to y'all for coming in. Peace and blessings. This is your brother Aboriginal Power. Let's get it.
Unknown ancient India in a 1 hour interview that I finished a few days ago. I was surprised at what he presented. I've seen his videos for the last few months now, and he does an outstanding job. They're very well done. But what he reveals is just beyond belief, because it shows a history of the world, a history of Earth that is not documented, and it's a wonderful addition to the show. So that's next week, September 15th, on Earth Ancients. Earth Ancients is supported by your subscriptions on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/Earth Ancients, you can sign up at Earth Ancients through your subscription theme. Okay, here's today's show.
And that's why I'll be saying I'll be having to pay for subscriptions to get these exclusive little interviews for y'all.
All this
This is an exclusive interview. We're gonna get right back into it, man. You know what I'm saying? You can't find this on YouTube, like I said. Can't find this on YouTube.
that some of the mounds hold giants, right? There's all sorts of research on that.
Right.
Also, that they also affect the frequency of the area.
Well, that's something we discussed at the very end, which is that some of them are built over ley lines that have this pulsing telluric energy that comes up into them. We don't know how they used it because we don't have the science to really read it, except for some real fundamental basic stuff. But that's a big question. What the hell were they doing?
Shout out to Earl Wheeler for the cash out donation supporting the challenge, man. Shout out to Earl Wheeler in the chat, man. I appreciate you, man. We appreciate all the support humbly, man. We really do over here at Big Aboriginal Power Network, man. You already know what's going on. Shout out to Earl Wheeler for the cash out donation, man. Make sure y'all support the channel, man. Don't let Earl Wheeler, Marcus Adam be the only people to support the channel. Shout out to my brother Craig too, man. Let's get
it with these energies.
Well, I mean, I feel that they were to do two things, which I feel like people are doing today, which is to, one, take yourself into zero reality so that you can create your future or see into the future, right?
Yeah.
And two, to heal yourself, because the body does run on a certain frequency. And, you know, obviously this is more of an alternative podcast where we can talk about that stuff, but it's becoming more mainstream where people are understanding that their body is an energetic system.
Yeah.
And it's not so strange to actually go to somebody to get that realigned. I mean, that's what acupuncture is. And there's obelisks in some of the ancient world, and even some over here in the United States, but they're not that ancient. But maybe what we had was these mounds, kind of like
I mean, have you done shows where you're talking about the frequencies of these places, and I mean, maybe bring psychics in? That's what they used to do in the old days. They would bring a psychic in, and that person would go, "Oh, yeah, I can feel it." And you know, Billy Bob was here walking among us. He's been dead now for 100 years.
That sounds like Ghost Hunters. I didn't do those shows. I mean, I did like a ghost show with Meatloaf once, and it was a total failure. Like Meatloaf, singer. But no, I mean, I think we've gone in there to just discuss like what it could be. Like, what is this mound? Like, how does it work?
Right.
And
it's a motherfucking singer named Meatloaf. Gotta be more pro.
I think ley lines, they're always an interesting conversation, right? Everybody has an idea of the ley lines. And, you know, I seriously still to this day can't find a good map of ley lines, but I've spoken to people.
They don't make maps of ley lines, man. This is what we call Earth's energy grid. Ley lines is Earth energy grid, and certain areas produce more energy frequency. They're not going to have a list to where you can just go and gather energy at, ma'am. What are you thinking? You got to know this thing. We have the shit inside of our body. We have a compass. You feel what I'm saying? We have a compass inside of our body that navigates to where we need to go. And your soul is the compass. Your soul only guides you to the truth. And that's the only place we need to go. You understand me? So as you look at your body compass, you'll understand that it naturally gravitates towards ley lines. Why you think these mounds was built in certain places? You think they was randomly put there? No.
People that that deal with God, I cannot remember. They're always an interesting conversation, right? Everybody has an idea of the ley lines, and I seriously still to this day can't find a good map of ley lines. But I've spoken to people that that deal with God, I cannot remember what their names are, but people that are always looking for oil know where there's certain currents of the earth, and those are the best maps for this kind of thing, because you go online and you see all these people that create all these ley line maps, especially around Sedona. That's just craziness. But there is an actual science to pinpointing massive amounts of energy. You could just look at the United States. There's pinpoints on that. And I've been kind of doing some research on the side. So I wouldn't be surprised if the mounds represent a spot where these two ley lines converged and created kind of a spark of energy.
See, there you go again, bitch. Talking about shit you don't got no business now. Let an expert tell you that that's exactly why we put them there. Not only that, that's why certain temples was there. Pyramidal structures. You understand me, ma'am? Let this information keep going, man. She about to go in on some shit. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Shout out to Leonardo for the Cash App donation. We appreciate all the support. Make sure y'all support the channel throughout the live stream. Support the $2 challenge, man. Shout out to Leonardo. He said, for peace, my brother. Shout out to Big Dog Philly OG.
He actually proved it that these corn seeds that when they were placed atop of various pyramids in Mexico, when they planted the seeds or when they germinated them, they were very strong and much larger than the normal seeds, and also grew a huge crop, a huge corn. So there's something to it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually just really fascinated about that. I feel like the whole energy conversation is so interesting for every ancient culture, every temple. Yeah. Everything that we discussed, they seem to have a good understanding of what that meant, and that we've barely been able to replicate that. And that's something that I'm just really interested in right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've lost the ability to detect these subtle fields. It's just something that's genetically, not part of our being anymore. And our ancestors, without all this technology, were able to sense a lot of these ley lines and these energy fields. So we're doing the best we can, I guess.
Yeah, well, we have too many inputs. We've got too much digital interference all the time. It's nearly impossible, and it's just a practice actually of removing them from your body so that you can detect more earthly energies, and that's in itself, because it's not like you're just going to go out in the middle of Colorado and leave your cell phone in the car and not have your computer, and you could still do that, and you'd still have digital inputs from power lines and all that kind of stuff. So it's human development to try to figure out a way to take out those inputs even when we can't, when they're still around us.
We have to evolve so that we have biological communication devices rather than electronic. So that's the huge leap, evolutionary leap. Someone's got to develop technology that's biological. That's kind of interesting.
It's gonna be me. I'm gonna develop it.
Okay. Hey, Melissa, as always, good to check in with you. And we will talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Of all the boys I've known, and I've known some,
And for those of you who want to know how to access these, they're posted on our Facebook page, and they should automatically immediately. Hates might lend itself to that theory.
It is, he's very much mainstream, and what he's saying is that Mars has water on it, liquid water that we know it did. I'm sorry, at one point, and we have evidence of that, and NASA has admitted that, and it's not really disputed, but. I
shouted you out, brother Marcus. I don't know if you late to the live, but I definitely shouted you out, brother. Appreciate the PayPal donation, brother. PayPal information is ticking across the screen, by the way.
It is that, well, how did it get that way, or how did it lose it? How did things change on Mars to the extent that there's no longer liquid water on the surface, and the atmosphere is long since evaporated, and it's very cold? He suggested that, well, maybe Mars's orbit was different. Maybe it was akin to the orbit of Venus. Using mathematical models, he puts out a paper that suggests that using simulation and mathematical models, that Mars was at one point close to Venus. So it was closer to the sun than the Earth was, actually. And it was kicked out further than the Earth's orbit. It survived. It didn't impact Earth, obviously. And it ended up where it is now. And they basically, I guess the point of this paper.
What the fuck is this nigga talking about? Like, seriously. This nigga fucking tweet.
Idea. And it's very fitting for Earth Ancients. So bravo on that one. Okay. The last one is God, I can't even talk today. Cahokia, which is a feature of our program. We're having probably one of the foremost authorities on mound builders. So this is an interesting one. It's YouTube. So talk a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm. Cahokia is a subject that's been really grinding on me recently, and I'm getting worked up about it because I feel like it's the greatest natural and cultural resource that the United States, that North America has, and it's completely overlooked. It's basically, it's something that encompasses everything from, like northern Mexico up to Canada. And it's something that most natural historians, people that should have knowledge of this subject and should be interested in it, have no idea what it is or where it is. And it's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of these earthworks and mounds that shaped this country that were here. They were documented from the 1500s to the 1800s. And then were basically forgotten, desecrated, lost, or just people just stopped caring about. Lewis and Clark documented these things. George Washington, the George Washington, the first president of this country, went to the Ohio River Valley to see what forgotten, desecrated, lost, or where it is.
Listen, man, this is a dope ass live stream. We just now getting into the meat and potatoes of the actual conversation. So I want y'all to do me a favor, y'all. As Aborigines, man, listen to your big bro, little bro. Share the live stream, thumb up the video, support the channel, man. Let's try to get 200 people in here before the hour mark, y'all. The only way we're gonna be able to do that is each and every one of you guys share it on your social media platforms. Shout out to everybody tuning in. Peace and blessings to y'all, man. We're gonna keep the wake and bake bill going, man. Let's get it. Man, shout out to everybody in the chat.
And it's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of these earthworks and mounds that shaped this country that were here. They were documented from the 1500s to the 1800s, and then were basically forgotten, desecrated, lost, or just people just stopped caring about. Lewis and Clark documented these things. George Washington, the George Washington, the first president of this country, went to the Ohio River Valley to see one of the earthworks there. And people they revered these things. They thought they were something left over from a great culture of the Native Americans that were here. But the funniest part about it, not funny, the most interesting part about it is that a lot of this stuff may not have been built by the Native Americans. This documentary sort of shows how some of it was built by the Native Americans and used by them, and other stuff may have been essentially a remnant of a culture before them. So maybe the Clovis people, maybe something before that, even before that.
Yes, it was niggas before them. Native Americans, they didn't build shit. They don't build shit here. When you looking at ancient Aboriginal history, they like, oh, well, well, it actually, as they start stumbling, taking deep breaths, there was actually someone here before, and we can't tell you that they was Negroes because it's gonna fuck up your history. That's the way they really thinking. Like, no, niggas, stop holding back, being weak with the information, man. These was niggas that built this shit. Mound builders, the same people that you call Negroes and black inventors is the ones that invented the process of mound building. You understand me? So let's continue.
Getting that documentary sort of shows how some of it was built by the Native Americans and used by them, and other stuff may have been essentially a remnant of a culture before them. So maybe the Clovis people, maybe something before that.
You hear how he said that? Like he stuttered, like he was like somebody before that. Like that nigga was scared as fuck to say it. Like, nigga, it was niggas. I know what my ancestors did.
Have been built by the Native Americans. This documentary sort of shows how some of it was built by the Native Americans and used by them, and other stuff may have been essentially a remnant of a culture before them. So maybe the Clovis people, maybe something before that, even before that, predating that. Yes, you find arrowheads in these earthwork mounds. Yes, you find copper and iron and engraved stone tablets with some stuff like Hebrew writing within them.
The Hebrew writing, that's some shit. Hey, man, if y'all feeling the bill, man, hit the like button, support the channel. Cash out tags at the bottom right of the screen. Make sure y'all share the live stream to all your social media outlets, man. If you're feeling the bill, drop a fire emoji in the chat. Let Big Al know how y'all feeling in the chat. Let's get it, y'all.
For that, even before that, predating that. Yes, you find arrowheads in these earthwork mounds. Yes, you find copper and iron and engraved stone tablets with some stuff like Hebrew writing within them. But there's really,
he almost didn't even want to say Hebrew writing though. He almost didn't even want to say that. He said, "What Hebrew writing?" Like, this nigga getting scared when he dropping that heat. Like, it's like he's scared. You know what I'm saying? Like he walking a thin line because he back home, like, man, these fucking niggers built everything, man. You know, that nigga start, excuse my French, this nigga he start going in all kind of little spin-offs and shit back home. When he get behind closed doors, he kind of walking a thimble line right now. You see what I'm saying? I'm just gonna tell you, it was Negro.
That. Yes, you find arrowheads in these earthwork mounds. Yes, you find copper and iron and engraved stone tablets with some stuff like Hebrew writing within them. But there's really not a lot of direct evidence to link it to any particular culture or another.
Yeah. The thing that, and we'll hear about this today with Dr. Greg Little, who's the foremost authority on it. He believes that at one time there were 1 million earthworks and mounds around the world, around the country, around the continental USA. And they have, it looks like you're right, they fell out of favor in the late 1800s, and people just began bulldozing them over or removing them or displacing the dirt. So something happened in our consciousness.
Something happened in the 1800s in particular.
Yeah. So
it was that period of time. Before that,
it ain't no something happened. That's why we done with somethings. These niggas beating around the bush, nigga. We know it was 3 great things that happened in the late 1700s, early 1800s, right? You got the great earthquake that happened, which is the Madrid earthquake. You got the asteroid comet of 1811, excuse me. 1806 or 1811, one of the two. And then you also have the mud flooding and the reconstruction of all of our documented orational history. You know what I'm saying? Y'all get what's going on?
In the late 1800s, and people just began bulldozing them over or removing them or displacing the dirt. So something happened in our consciousness.
Something happened in the 1800s in particular.
Yeah. So
it was that period of time. Before that, they were revered and respected, and after that, they were sort of desecrated. And I don't know. I wouldn't even call it a conspiracy, because the likely culprits, like religion, like the Christian church, they didn't necessarily respect these things, but they also didn't. There was no doctrine that said go out and and plow them up.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a concerted effort necessarily. I mean, in certain instances.
Yeah, the Reconstruction period is pretty much them whitewashing, lying, and inserting different things into our history and leaving out certain things. That's what the Reconstruction period is. It happened in the 1800s, right after the war, 1812, when these people started destroying the last remnants of our lost empires that they might call Tartaria, that they might call the Amaru, they might call it Atlantis. It's just the ancient empire. Don't matter what the fuck you want to call it.
As it was, yes, just like it was in South America, but it's very odd. It's almost like it was more of a scientific conspiracy than it was a religious one.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about this before. If these were in, say, England or Ireland or another European country, they would be revered and they would be protected. They would be fenced off from having any harm done to them. But here in America, they're not even really considered. It's really strange.
Talk about religion for a second. Let me talk about religion for one quick second. Joseph Smith, who was the founder of the Mormon faith, he basically, one of his core tenets of the founding principles of the Mormonism was that the people in North America had come from the Middle East. They were basically Hebrews and Hittites that had come over here, right? So the reason he said that was he went around the country and he was from upstate New York. He saw all of these mounds and these earthworks, and he noticed that there was Hebrew writing on these stone engraved tablets within these earthworks. The Native Americans, at least the ones that he spoke with, had no idea what he was talking about. But he noticed that as a religious scholar, there was Hebrew writing everywhere. And it's been confirmed by many, many people. So he made this is like one of the core tenets. This is one of the bases of Mormonism, is that the Hebrews came here. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty trippy.
Aside from saying Mormons are cults, that they're occultists and everything else. Okay, well, hold on a second. He noticed Hebrew writing.
The Mormons is some of the people that actually stole a lot of our history and hid it too. You know what I mean? They was some of the first people doing archaeology here, taking some of our quote unquote misclassified Egyptian, Sumerian, and Hebrew artifacts and shipping them and sending them to the London Museum and the England Museum and shit. They didn't even store them here. Like, they've been lying about our history and who we are from the beginning. You feel what I'm saying?
And why don't we talk about that first before denigrating some other faith that came to pass a lot later on. Why don't we talk about where some of these beliefs came from? And I don't understand why scientists don't really, or historians themselves aren't taking a closer look at some of these things. And
often nations is misclassified as whatever their language is, brother Azibe. Just like when you deal with a Arabic person, an Arab person, that's playing off of the language. When you talk to an Algonquin Indian, that's playing off of the language. When you talk to an Iroquois, that's playing off of the language. You see what I'm saying? Of these people, often that get misclassified pronounced onto people in certain nations and groups.
A lot later on. Why don't we talk about where some of these beliefs came from? And I don't understand why scientists don't really, or historians themselves aren't taking a closer look at some of these things and trying to figure out exactly what the truth is behind this.
Yeah, it's a big question. We're going to hear today from Greg Little on what his feelings are, and he is, like I said, the foremost authority. He has a 500-page encyclopedia of earthworks and mounds here in the United States, so that'll be fun. Hey, Adam, excellent as always. Great content and really good research on this. These are going to be posted on our Facebook page for everyone to check out, so be looking for that. All right, hey, we'll catch you next week, my friend.
Just when I finish my to-do list.
We need more chips, Mom.
Say, this nigga got all these motherfucking commercials. This nigga be drawn.
Miguel Discovery. If you're interested in joining me go to Earth Ancient Travel, and again, a couple of people talk about their belief that there is a pre-Diluvian people that eventually morphed into Native Americans. We've had people talking about the megaliths, the rock formations that a lot of scientists, archaeologists believe are root cellars from the colonists, and they actually turn out to be significantly older in age and not root cellars at all. Some of them are on top of telluric fields and produce energetic field energy that people can actually feel. But we haven't talked to the level of detail about the mound builders that I'd like to get into. And we do know recently from a discovery in San Diego that as far back as 130,000 years ago, human-like people were here in the United States. That site in San Diego was a mastodon bone cracking site where they actually extracted the marrow. And the scientists who were brave enough to reveal this information were licensed and professional archaeologists, anthropologists, and even a geologist got involved to say, yes, this is what this is. These are the remains of an ancient people. That's as far as it got, but it shook the academic community to its core in presenting the facts that America, the United States as it is, was once inhabited by very, very old people from a culture that we really don't know anything about. Today, we're going to address the mound builders, the culture that built them throughout the United States. And I am really honored to have who I believe is a foremost authority on these mounds, Dr. Greg Little. Now, Greg's a psychologist. He's a licensed professional counselor. When he's not traveling around the world and seeking out anomalous cultures, he has written 9 books.
Hey, man, we're going to get into the rest of this bill, too, man. Y'all heard the credentials going out. You're going to break down some of these mounds. Can y'all hear everything loud and clear? If y'all fucking with the channel, man, make sure y'all hit that like button. You know what I'm saying? Share the live stream. Feel free to donate if you feel free. The cash out tags at the bottom of the screen. PayPal information ticking across the screen as well. Make sure y'all support the channel, man. We're going to continue with the fire bill. This is the Wake and Bake Show. This is your brother, Big Aboriginal Power. Let's get it.
15 behavioral workbooks on mental health. And he's also written a number of books on Native America. He's worked with the Edgar Cayce Foundation and wrote a book called Search for Atlantis, Secrets of the Ancient World. And he has a new book, which is just recently came out, called Path of the Souls, and a number of other books. But this is going to be an eye-opener for a lot of you, because Greg has written what I can only call a tome. And this is the largest body of work ever written, I believe. It's called the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Native American Indians, Mounds and Earthworks. It's about 500 pages, and it is filled, and I'm not saying filled with writing, it's filled with illustrations, photographs, schematics. One of the most authoritative bits of research that I've ever seen. And by the way, it is available on Amazon right now. So if you're interested in listening to this audio again and getting the book, it's really a great way to follow along with what Dr. Little has presented here. Greg, how are you today? Glad to have you with us.
I'm good, Cliff. It's always a pleasure and glad to be back again. Good to talk to you. We've already talked quite a while here before your listeners heard us, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, great to have you with us. You have so many interests, Greg, and this is a big interest of yours simply because of the time expended. And of course, your wife helped you out in the creation of this encyclopedia. But when was kind of the tipping point where you began to get a sense that this was these mounds were built by an unknown race, and that you decided that you wanted to really get into it?
Well, actually, we got into it around 1983, and it's a story. It's a story that I tell in that book, Path of Souls, and it happened from dreams, actually. And it began so just out of nowhere. I started having dreams of standing on Indian mounds and taking pictures of them. And this went on literally for 10 straight nights, and it came from nowhere. I've said before, and I think it's actually in the book, that everything I knew about Indian mounds back in 1983, I could have written on the back of a postage stamp. For those few people in your audience that know what a postage stamp is, yeah. But that's Indian mounds aren't talked about in history. They're not talked about in high school, and it's just sort of an unknown part of history. In fact, we avoid Native American history today almost completely for a number of reasons. But those dreams came out of nowhere, night after night. And finally, the 10th morning when I got up, I told my wife, Laura, that we needed to go look at a mound. I'd never seen one in my life. We live in Memphis, Tennessee, so we went to a set of mounds here in Memphis called Chucalissa. It's run.
Shout out to Tennessee in the building, man. Anybody in Tennessee in the building, man, put your big T's in the chat. Put your power T's in the chat if you're from Tennessee, man. Shout out to everybody.
What was then Memphis State University. It's now the University of Memphis. We went there, and as soon as we walked into the museum, which you use the museum to get into the mound complex, we saw an image of a symbol that we both had a real connection to. And immediately I told Laura that I knew what I needed to do, that I needed to make a pictorial work that had every known mound in it and somehow try to document it and make some sort of a record of it. So that's what began that Encyclopedia of Mounds project, 83.
Okay.
We wound up visiting thousands and thousands of them around the country, and my wife took most of the photos that are in it. So that's kind of the story.
Well, I'll tell you, I got an eye opener when I was reading some of the details. According to your research, at one time, there were over 1 million mounds in existence. Today, according to your research,
1 million mounds? 1 million mounds. Come on, man. How long would it have taken to make 1 million mounds?
There's about 100,000 that remain, but that's still quite a bit. And what I thought was wonderful is that you went to literally every state in the continental U.S. and found mounds. At some point when you were writing this book, you must have gone, well, I'm going to make this available to every state, or I'm going to research every state, and anybody who lives in a different state will be able to say, okay, these are mounds that I can consider, built by natives or even earlier people. So you really make it quite a fun read for people around the continental U.S. But I have to ask you, why is it that these mounds are not looked at from a scientific point of view and really considered a part of early America? What's the reason?
Well, there's several reasons. At one time, they were considered part of history. Back in the 1800s, the Smithsonian actually began its.
Hey, man, drop them fire emojis. Run up the likes, man. We looking a little light on the likes. Let's try to get 160 likes in the building today. Let's try to get 160 likes. Let's try to get 200 people before the hour marker, y'all. Appreciate everybody for tapping in, man. Peace and blessings to everybody that's tuning in, that's viewing this live stream. It's your brother, Big Aboriginal Power. Make sure y'all hit the like button and support the channel, man. Very, very important for you guys to support the channel. I only came with 8 days of heat already. We're going to keep it going, though, because I'm feeling the vibe that the Aboriginal information is spewing right now. Shout out to y'all. We're going to keep it going. It's consistency. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. We're going to continue with this live stream. Let's get it. Shout out to everybody.
Considered a part of early America. What's the reason?
Well, there's several reasons. At one time, they were considered part of history. Back in the 1800s, the Smithsonian actually began its entire history with a work on Native American mounds and earthworks. That was the beginning of the Smithsonian, and their very first publication was kind of an encyclopedia about.
Did you hear that? Did y'all hear what he just said? He said the Smithsonian would have never existed. The first thing they ever published, documented, or stored was earth mounds and the information and the artifacts from our mounds. So they took our shit from our mounds and created the Smithsonian, which is one of the greatest institutes when it comes to our history documentation and one of the most corrupt ones when it comes to lying about it. Did y'all hear that shit? That's crazy.
Smithsonian actually
really considered a part of early America. What's the reason?
Listen to this.
Well, there's several reasons. At one time, they were considered part of history. Back in the 1800s.
Now, I want y'all to listen to what he's about to say right now. Listen.
The Smithsonian actually began its entire history with a work on Native American mounds and earthworks. That was the beginning of the Smithsonian, and their very first publication was kind of an encyclopedia about mounds and earthworks. At that time, archaeologists, or early archaeologists, mainly antiquarians, were digging into mounds, pulling out various artifacts and also a lot of skeletal remains, and they wrote about them. So it really was a real activity by scientists in the 1800s, and they developed a theory that there was an unknown race of mound builders, sort of a lost race that got wiped out by the more savage Indians that were then.
That's a motherfucking lie. And it was a more older race of people and a more smarter, equivalent, science-heavy people. And you're talking to some of the descendants of those people today. You're looking at them in the chat today. They haven't been wiped out by savage Indians. We don't even see savage Indians in our area. They didn't grow up where we was. My grandmama didn't see them. My great-grandmama didn't mix with them. They didn't talk about war stories from them. That's fake stuff, man. This is fake stuff that they talking about. But this is what mainstream science teaches, and they hide the history that where we was, because most of it was destroyed, most of it was deliberately hidden by the Smithsonian, and then the rest of it was just all fabricated and mixed up with the Reconstruction period. You see what I'm saying?
Occupying the land. That then became seen as a very racist theory, and slowly but surely mainstream archaeology began sort of pushing all the history of the mounds into the background, and they took the position that all the mounds were built by the ancestors of the current Native Americans, and they began looking for artifacts to form their own history, which is another whole idea in this. They ignored what the natives themselves said about the mounds and about their belief system, and archaeologists focused in more on what they thought was science. That is, we'll piece this together and come up with our own history of it. So it's just been pushed out of mind and out of sight. People ignore it. And to be very blunt, you yourself go to Central America every year.
Right.
American mounds are more simplified versions of stone pyramids and stone pyramid complexes. It is a more.
So Chief Holiday is right once again. He said that mounds are the predecessor to pyramids. That means that mounds must be older than pyramids. Most of the mounds is in North America. See, that's what Chief Holiday been pushing, y'all. Shout out to my brother Chief.
Simple way of constructing pyramids. So they're simply not as impressive as the mounds you'd find at Teotihuacan, almost any of the sites in Central America, and certainly not as impressive as those in Egypt. So Americans have pretty much ignored them. But North America has the largest and most complex geometric earthworks in the world. And those earthworks incorporate.
Did you hear what the fuck he just said? We have the most complex earthworks in the world. Let me run that back. You ain't listening to my man.
Not as impressive as those in Egypt. Simple way of constructing pyramids. So they're simply not as impressive as the mounds you'd find at Teotihuacan, almost any of the sites in Central America, and certainly not as impressive as those in Egypt. So Americans have pretty much ignored them. But North America has the largest and most complex geometric earthworks in the world. And those earthworks incorporate the moon. They follow and track the movements of the moon over its 21.6 year cycle to predict eclipses. They follow and track various star movements and star settings. And it's really incredible, but it's truly ignored by mainstream history and to some extent by archaeologists themselves. But
I want to get into the details of the construction techniques of the mounds. But before we go there, I'd like to hear from you who these people were, where you believe they came from. And
here you go, pushing the narrative. Why you got to say they came from somewhere, and why don't you say they was already here? Why don't you say they was already here?
Where they obtained the knowledge to create.
Now you saying that somebody gave us the knowledge. Nigga, they don't even build mounds nowhere else. What wrong with you, stupid ass boy?
Mounds that were aligned with the constellations, were able to predict and do a lot of things that the Maya did. What do we know? What did you discover about these people? Because a lot of people get into this immediately and go, oh, they're all giants. They all are a giant race and they had giant skeletons, and the whole Smithsonian thing comes into this. We will talk about the Smithsonian.
Sure.
But I want to get into what you have discovered about who these people were.
Well, the so-called giants do fit into this. There was an elite population. But the real truth is the history of the migrations into the Americas is far more complex than anybody has ever let on. You alluded to it in the beginning of this when you said that there is a site near San Diego that dates to 133,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm. 133,000 years ago in San Diego is what they found human evidence of. So they pretty much agree, and mainstream scientists ain't came all the way out yet. You know how they do. But they pretty much then came out on a limb and said humans or Negroes or people been in America for 133,000 years. All right.
America has sites that go back to over 150,000 years ago, and there are actually a series of sites that.
Did you hear what he said? There's sites in America that go back over 150,000 years. Y'all not listening. Y'all can't even find this shit on YouTube, y'all. This is exclusive. Support the channel, man. If y'all want me to keep this shit going, support the channel. Hit that like button. Share the live stream, man. Let's do what he just said.
Near San Diego that dates to 133,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. South America has sites that go back to over 150,000 years ago, and there are actually a series of sites that South American archaeologists just claim point blank go back to 300,000 years ago. There are tribes in South America in the Brazilian Amazon that there is no doubt genetically their ancestors came from Polynesia, and some of their ancestors came from Australia. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. There are loads of areas in South America dated to 50,000 years ago. North American archaeologists reject all that. They dislike it intensely. As far as North America goes, there are numerous sites that go to 30 to 50,000 years ago. Where these people came from, the best way to really find that out is to look at genetics. And where the genetics stands today, it's a type of DNA called mitochondrial DNA that they use to test this. Mm-hmm. It boils down to this. There definitely were a number of migrations into the Americas from Siberian Asia. There's no doubt about it. There were also a lot of migrations coming from the South Pacific into both North and South America. There were also unknown migrations that it depends what no one really knows.
He said
also a lot of migrations coming from.
He said that some migrations came from the south. I mean, from the land bridge. There's no evidence in it. That's just a theory. Then he said the Pacific Island, which we proved that people came from the Pacific Island area, and there was only one great nation 100,000 years ago in the Pacific Island. Shout out to Unconscious one. He said Mu was out there. He said Lumeria was out there. Evidence is showing you that someone from out there, where A1 said was there, 100,000 years ago, came to America. Now listen, do we have evidence on that? Absolutely. Shout out to this man. This nigga going in low key.
DNA that they use to test this. It boils down to this. There definitely were a number of migrations into the Americas from Siberian Asia. There's no doubt about it. There were also a lot of migrations coming from the South Pacific into both North and South America. There were also unknown migrations that it depends what, no one really knows for sure, but they could have come from the area today we call Europe. It doesn't mean they were white Europeans. They carried a very specific.
He said they came from Europe, but that doesn't mean that they was white European. Listen to him.
Kind of mitochondrial DNA. But they seem to have come from the Altai Mountains, and they're called haplogroup X. There's a couple of other groups. I think I talked to you at one time about my own mitochondrial DNA, which is related to some that has been found in some of the mummies in Peru. It's called H2A2A. And it's actually pretty rare, but that comes from more like India.
Nigga, your ass ain't got no Peruvian mound blood, nigga. Shut your white ass up.
So there are all these groups coming into the Americas, and the Americas really was a melting pot. That is true. The dates of when these people came goes back.
It's only a melting pot because people was coming here to shop with us. And we know for a fact that the Asian people was coming over here to buy our medicine from our medicine shops and our medicine temples because the Asian people had very, very bad teeth. This is how you get the opiate plant in large production in Asia. This is why you see that they mimic the pyramidal style in Asia. They came here and they revered what they seen and they try to mimic it. You see what I'm saying?
Probably to 300,000 years ago, definitely 100,000 years ago, some more came in. And then we know more groups came in around 50,000 years ago, and a whole lot came in at the end of the Ice Age, maybe between 15 to 12,000 years ago. So they came from all over the place.
Why would they come to what is today the United States, Greg? Was there something about it that would draw them here, or were they like the ancient Chinese that we've recently discovered who came here just to put another notch on their cap and say, yeah, we found a new place and we are going to call it home?
I think that they were truly nomadic people and they were hunter-gatherers. I could ask you, why do you go to Central America? Why do you go there? And some of it is, in a way, you're nomadic. You want to see what's there.
No, he's going there to be a part of it, to get information, to get something out of it. That's why most people go anywhere, is to get something out of wherever they're going, whatever it may be. It's been happening historically for hundreds of thousands of years. I'm telling you, that 100,000 is only a small fraction of our history. We got history going back octillion of years. 100 octillion, 400 octillion years. 100,000 hadn't even scratched the surface of what our true Aboriginal history is. But we're going to keep breaking it down. We're going to keep going through what we can find. Listen, man, there was never a time that we wasn't here, man. We are the only true measurement of time. You see what I'm saying?
Want to look at other things. And so you had expanding populations at that time that were following big game. And there are populations that come into conflict with each other, and one group usually leaves and goes somewhere else. But I think instilled into humans and probably built into our DNA is a desire to travel some and to look around and to expand our horizons. Okay. And I think that's really what it was.
Now, one of the things I want to touch on before we move on is that it looks like there are hominins that do not exist anymore. And as an example, it's been reported through a number of articles and
hey, make sure y'all share the live stream, y'all, man. Make sure y'all share the live stream. We had an hour and 15-minute marker, man. Make sure y'all support the channel and share the live stream. Cash App tags at the bottom right of the screen. If y'all feeling this bill, let me know. We're gonna keep breaking down the shit that he's talking about and picking up and dodging the hijack as well. So, you know what I'm saying? Make sure y'all support the channel, man. I appreciate all the support, man. Make sure y'all thumb up the video, share the live stream. You feel me? Cash App tags at the bottom right of the screen, man. Shout out to everybody in the chat. This is the Wake and Bake Bill. Let's continue the live.
Stories and newspapers, giant human beings, some over 8 feet, some even taller, are found in these mounds. And that represents a population that you don't see anymore. So is it possible that there were very early people that are not with us anymore because of the environments being changed, or they killed off or something? What do you say about that?
I say it's probably quite true that there was an elite group, a hereditary group of people who were probably Denisovan, Neanderthal, modern human hybrids. And that's the same. And this is not my theory. Andrew Collins came up with this some years ago, the British author Andrew Collins. And Andrew and I have finished a book on this that will come out actually a year from now. Okay. It's a ways from now, but the book is done and it's in the publisher's hands. But these people appear to be the elite who brought this knowledge in about the stars. They probably entered the Americas maybe 12 to 15,000 years ago. The Smithsonian actually reported in a couple of their publications, they dug 17 of these, what people call giant skeletal remains, and they're all from roughly 7 feet to almost 8 feet in height.
Listen to what he just said. They pulled out the mound, huh?
In the publisher's hands. But these people,
listen, these niggas talking about what they pulled out of our fucking mound.
Appear to be the elite who brought this knowledge in about the stars. They probably entered the Americas maybe 12 to 15,000 years ago.
What the fuck is 12 to 15,000 years ago when you just said that you got niggas in California 130,000 years ago and niggas in South America at 150? What the fuck is 12? That's like 10 times the amount. That's 10 times older than 12. 12,000. We got documented history 10 times that time frame. You see what I'm saying? Excuse me, y'all.
Smithsonian actually reported in a couple of their publications, they dug 17 of these, what people call giant skeletal remains, and they're all from roughly 7 feet to almost 8 feet in height. We know they're the elite because they were buried in tombs, stone chambers, and sometimes these huge log chambers in the base of tombs that were at the base of mounds. Right. And they've never been tested DNA-wise, never will be tested DNA-wise. That's something we could talk about. I do have some results on DNA from the mounds that they were found in. But these people, according to Native American legends, became corrupt and were literally exterminated by the tribes. However, even when the first white...
Look, Big O, you like this conversation, don't you, nigga? Big O like that. That nigga said he a giant. He said he got 6 fingers and 6 toes. Big O love this shit.
Explorers and the conquistadors came into North America. A number of them were found and were still the chiefs and the elite of some of the tribes. One of the biggest stories is of the Chief Tuscaloosa and his...
Chief Tuscaloosa. Hey, why you going in like that, man? He been listening to A1 and Chief Holiday and Big Aboriginal Power and shit. I swear to God, this nigga be saying some shit, but he mixing it up. He ain't going in like how we be going, but he going in enough though where I can piggyback off of. You can't even find this on YouTube, man.
First white explorers and the conquistadors came into North America. A number of them were found and were still the chiefs and the elite of some of the tribes. One of the biggest stories is of the Chief Tuscaloosa and his son, which were near Moundville, Alabama, and they were both well over 7 feet tall. And there's actually 4.
You see how he said Chief Tuscaloosa was 4 feet, all this shit, but you ain't say that means black warrior though. You ain't gonna tell me that. You ain't gonna tell him that Tuscaloosa means black warrior. Like, you pretty much saying that they ran into a nigga like Shaq. He ran into a nigga like Shaq.
Still the chiefs and the elite of some of the tribes. One of the biggest stories is of the Chief Tuscaloosa and his son, which were near Moundville, Alabama, and they were both well over 7 feet tall. And there's actually 4 written accounts by the Spanish that talk about them being over 7 feet in height. They were the only ones in the tribe that were that tall, but it's interesting that they were actually the leader. There are a bunch of other accounts of the Spanish encountering these 7-foot leaders of tribes. So we believe some of the elite persisted, but they were virtually all killed off. And, you know, people will look at the...
So you mean to tell me that them Olmec statues ain't niggas that Shaq size that was really hooping, playing ball? Come on, man. There's nothing new under the sun. Our ancestors was more advanced than us. And so if you think the shit that we doing is advanced, what the fuck you expect that they was doing? Come on, man.
NBA today and say, oh gosh, it's real common. It is not common for people to be 7 feet tall. In fact, most of the people in the NBA, National Basketball Association, that we say are 7 feet tall aren't actually 7 feet tall. They're usually 6'10", sometimes 6'11", and they put these types of sneakers on them and then fudge a bit. That's very common. But okay. 7 foot to 8 foot tall is very uncommon today. There are some people that are that tall, not very many, but in the ancient world, there definitely appear to have been quite a few more, and they were usually the leaders.
Okay, and these people had brought with...
Hey, if y'all feeling the bill right now, drop some fire emojis in the chat, man. Drop some fire emojis in the chat. Support the channel. Shout out to somebody that donated that wanted to stay anonymous. So if you want to donate and stay anonymous, just let me know. Appreciate y'all on the donation, man. To the anonymous person, I appreciate that. Make sure y'all hit that like button and support the channel, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Let's continue to live.
Some fairly advanced science, I would say, or would you say? What would you say?
Oh, absolutely. Geometry, the ability to not just track the movements of the stars. One of the best examples that I like to cite is a place called Newark, Ohio. It's called the Circle and Octagon. Gigantic earthwork. It's the largest set of earthworks in the world. In fact, it extends some 56 miles from Newark, which is near Columbus, all the way down to Chillicothe, Ohio.
Did you hear how long this earthwork is? It's the largest earthwork in the world is in Newark, Ohio, and we don't talk about it? What the fuck? Listen.
Ohio. It's called the Circle.
Would you say? What would you say?
Oh, absolutely. Geometry, the ability to not just track the movements of the stars. One of the best examples that I like to cite is a place called Newark, Ohio. It's called the Circle and Octagon. Gigantic earthwork. It's the largest set of earthworks in the world. In fact, it extends some 56 miles from Newark, which is near Columbus, all the way.
56 miles? That's fucking huge.
It is a place called Newark, Ohio. It's called the Circle and Octagon. Gigantic earthwork. It's the largest set of earthworks in the world. In fact, it extends some 56 miles from Newark, which is near Columbus all the way down to Chillicothe, Ohio, 56 miles long.
Yeah.
There's a circle and an octagon formed by outer walls of earth, a perfect circle that encloses 30 acres, and then an octagon that encloses 50 acres. The circle and octagon is oriented in a way that it charts the movements of the moon over 26 years. So
what the fuck? Did you hear this? I don't think y'all niggas hearing this, man. Damn. He pretty much saying that our ancestors were so advanced that we can't even fucking comprehend their skill levels and technological advancement. That they were so motherfucking advanced that we can't even understand them. We like, damn. Y'all heard this? Oh, my bugging, man.
Circle that encloses 30 acres, and then an octagon that encloses 50 acres. The circle and octagon is oriented in a way that it charts the movements of the moon over 26 years. So someone not only had to watch the moon from that site for 26 years and put some sort of marking on the ground for 26 years, and then have this massive earthwork. I mean, it's enormous. It is huge. It's so big that most interesting thing I had happen was we took Andrew Collins there. We stood at the top of the circle looking down on it. Andrew had lived in the middle of Avebury at the time in England. Right. And Andrew said you could put 12 Stonehenges inside this and have loads of room left over. The octagon would hold 8 Roman Colosseums in it. It is that large, and it has 8 truncated pyramids.
Do y'all hear what the fuck this nigga is saying? Yo, shout out to the American Aborigines in North America for holding it down when it comes to the most complex, amazing earthworks known to man. Shout out to y'all ancestors for doing that, man. Give yourself a motherfucking pat on the back, man. Give yourself a pat on the back, man, for being a descendant of these people and continue to build the minds of our people that has been lost during this whole genocide process. Hey, man, the gods is waking up, man. Aboriginals don't die. We multiply. Let's go. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Support the channel.
Huge. It's so big that most interesting thing I had happen was we took Andrew Collins there. We stood at the top of the circle looking down on it. Andrew had lived in the middle of Avebury at the time in England. Right. And Andrew said you could put 12 Stonehenges inside this and have loads of room left over. The octagon would hold 8 Roman Colosseums in it. It is that large, and it has 8 truncated pyramids at each point of the octagon. But they charted it for the 26 years, but then they had to watch it again to make sure all the alignments are correct. So what you do is you would stand on top of one mound, and you could look across another in the distance and watch the moon at different phases, which it takes the moon 26 years to make the exact same cycle that it had 26 years earlier.
How was it charted? Was it charted through a post that the light hit it a certain way, or
I can't tell you. The moon is on the horizon at those times. It's the rising and setting of the moons. It's called the standstill, the lunar standstills, and you would see the moon hovering right above the top of the mound. And it's a way to predict eclipses perfectly, and it still works today. Now, this evidence is not mine. This comes from a couple of archaeoastronomers at a university in Ohio, and now this is accepted in mainstream archaeology. It's in all the textbooks. There are the interesting thing, it goes 56 miles. The earthwork extends 56 miles down to an identical circle and octagon near Chillicothe, and it did the same thing in Chillicothe. I mean, it's incredible. So they had these there's probably about 30 of those that were in existence around North America, of these circular square earthwork formations. Sometimes they were formed into an octagon, and they charted the moon. There were others that almost all the sites would predict the solstice, sunrise, and sunset at both the winter and summer solstice. They also charted the equinox. And then there are loads of sites that have very consistent stellar movements where you could watch the setting and the rising point of Orion, the Cygnus constellation, and then several others. The Pleiades pops up, and the same star systems that you see in South America and in Central America were incorporated into American mounds.
Wow. You touched upon earlier.
He actually got it ass backwards. The North American mounds was incorporated into what we call pyramidal building. If the mounds go back millions of years and the pyramids go back 150, who's older? Come on, man. It's simple.
The DNA from these mounds, what do we know?
Shout out to Kevin Coleman for the Cash App donation, man. Shout out to Kevin Coleman for the Cash App donation. We appreciate all the support. Shout out to Kevin Coleman. Make sure y'all support the channel, man. Don't let Kevin Coleman be the only one support the channel, man. Appreciate y'all in the chat. Let's get it, y'all.
And China is where B comes from. X really links to Europe, although it's X probably originated in the Altai Mountains. Then when you get into South America, you find A, B, C, D, and a little bit of X, but you find a whole bunch of others, many of which are now extinct, which means the last one of that lineage died out. And there's about a dozen or more extinct variations that have been found in South America. And there are 7 or 8 others that are still around.
Shout out to A.V. He said, for 2 gallons of gas, he sent me a $10 Cash Out donation. Man, gas like $5.50, nigga. I put premium in my shit, nigga. You know what I mean? You gotta put premium in the Jag, fam. It's premium. It's fucked up around here, fam. I'm about to get me a horse. You feel me? Big Al about to get a horse. I'm like, fuck it. I'm gonna next year. Y'all driving Lambs. Y'all in Ferraris. You in a Bronco. Bitch, I'm about to get a Clydesdale. You understand me? I'm about to, hey, gas fucked up, man. Straight up. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to A.V. for the Cash App donation. We appreciate the support.
Found in South America that are not in North America. So South America had a lot more different people coming into it than North America did, which is odd. And I can't explain it. It's just where all the facts go.
There are some alternative researchers that are beginning to believe that the Maya may have come into the present-day United States. I'm
Georgia.
trying to think. Yeah,
into
Georgia. Yeah.
Thornton has done
That's
a lot.
Right,
of,
Thornton. Right.
And mainstream archaeologists hate that. In fact, I have a number of friends that are mainstream archaeologists, most of whom never want their names mentioned, but they really dislike that intensely. But there's very good evidence that the Maya came into areas of Georgia, probably into parts of Florida, and maybe actually started mound building in America to begin with. And that's another.
It predates them, sir. When you got the Olmec traveling to Tennessee, right? We have that documented. If you don't have the book, Natural Aboriginal History of Tennessee, please get that. I wish one of my moderators dropped that in the chat. But when you read in that book, it talks about the Olmec coming to Tennessee and running into the Yamasee and running into the Chickamauga and running into the Yuchi Indian and pretty much settling in the areas that we call Tennessee, Georgia, and Carolina today. So there was other tribes there that was building already, that obviously they had a camaraderie with. You feel what I'm saying? It was harmony somewhere. It was recognition. It was understanding.
Fact in all this, American mounds, the oldest known American mound, North American mound, dates to about 4,700 BC, or about 6,700 years ago, and that's found in Louisiana. Whereas the oldest mound in the Americas is found in the Bolivian Andes in a place that's dated to 8,400 BC or 10,400 years ago. So mound building began in South America far earlier than it did in North America. So it is logical that mound building moved from the south to the north, which is something that you won't find in American archaeology textbooks. In fact, those up till roughly 1997 would tell you that all mound building began in the north and went south. And they'll also tell you all the people that came into the Americas came in around 12,000 years ago, came into America first and then went south. And of course, all that's changed since 1997.
Right. It's reversed.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the dynamics of a mound. Now, when I first started observing mounds, I've seen a few. To my mind, they looked like rudimentary pyramidal structures that we see in Central and parts of South America. How would you?
Hey, so listen, this is the part where I want y'all to hit the like button and support the channel. I need y'all to thumb up the video, man. Support the channel, man. So I'm gonna take a quick 60-second break. It'll give y'all enough time to support the channel, man. Thumb up the video, support the channel, all that good shit, man. So make sure y'all support the channel. Hit the like button, share the live stream. You feel me? We'll be back in 60 seconds.
Yeah. Hey man, all I'm saying is, nigga, you always got something to say. It's like you don't shut up.
On the track. A lot of niggas died 1865. Took a Michael flag high, ain't gon' let it ride. Everybody hot and black was never on your side. They do maps to tell your apps where you sleep at night. They put that white man on. Got you begging them for answers like that white man know. Had you swearing you was African, that's that white man home. Had you proud to be a savage, that's that white man zone. And I ain't talking shit, this by definition. And being savage was our nature, y'all be non-existent. We done took your ass out when we was in them kitchens. Instead of showing you how to live and how to maintain business. White supremacy fake. Only way that shit real is if you do what they say.
Somebody asked what was the name of the book. The book is called The Natural Aboriginal History of Tennessee. Look it up.
First of all,
and if you can't find it, go type the build in, and you might see it on YouTube, because I did a build on the channel, and I dropped the links in the description box and also in the live feed, so you can go get the book both ways.
Different kinds of mounds. There probably were 1 million mounds that once existed in the America, and the vast majority of those would have been and they're conical in shape. And the word conical, if you think of the top of an ice cream cone, that's kind of what they look like. And those are simple, rounded formations at the top. Almost all of those are burial mounds. They're not all as simple as you would think. At the base of many of those mounds are extremely well-constructed stone tombs that they use dry masonry, and they would make a very large tomb in the base, and much like you would see in England. And then after they perform the burials or whatever rituals they were going to perform, they would construct this mound on the top. In some other cases, they would do the same thing, but they would form the tombs with logs, huge logs, and then put stone slabs on the top. So a lot of the simple conical mounds were just these burials. Sometimes later groups would come in and hold cremations on the tops of these mounds and then cover them with another layer of dirt. And then that process could be repeated again and again and again. And eventually you could have a massive conical mound, 60 to 70 feet high, that would have as many as 1,000 to 2,000 burial remains in it. There were quite a few of those. Some of those still exist. There's probably about 20 to 30 of those that still exist in the United States. So that's the most common type, not the huge ones, but generally the small ones. And that's what most people think of when they think of a mound. Then there are platform mounds, also called truncated pyramids. The largest of those is at Cahokia, near East St. Louis, Illinois. You can actually see the downtown St. Louis from it. Wow. And It's 100 feet tall. It's the height of a 10-story building. Its base is almost 14 acres, which is greater than the Great Pyramid.
This guy's been misinformed a little bit. That's why it's best for us to get out with these archaeology, look at the data, and start incorporating our own literature and our own books, because this guy doesn't really have the full details of what's going on. He's missing pieces, so the story that he's putting together is really not right. It's been altered in a way. So man, that's why it's very, very important for us to do that, man. It's very, 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 very important for us to do that, y'all. Make sure y'all hit that like button, support the channel.
Pyramid. To tell you how big the top is on it, in 1987, 4,000 people gathered right on the top part of it, and they had room to spare. There were a lot more people on the mound, but the very top part that was flat, that once had a temple on it, 4,000 people. That also, they know, had a huge temple on it that had walls 50 feet.
Yeah, that nigga trying to finesse England in it. But listen though, when he talking about England, he might be talking about historical written in England, but geographically England was in Canada. I have proof that geographically in ancient times England was in Canada, because the place that we call England today historically was called Albion. So it couldn't have been England when it was called Albion. You see what I'm saying? This is facts. I'm telling you, I got the heat on this shit, man. We turning up today, man. Hit that like button.
In height. So we're talking about a gigantic building on top of this 100-foot tall pyramid, and it is shaped like a pyramid. In its base, one of the secrets about all this, or really interesting facts, in its base, back around the year 2000, it was in the late 90s, but they did more work around 2000, that showed in its base is a massive stone structure that's 2 stories tall and huge, about the size of a house. It's never been dug into, probably never will, at least not in our lifetimes. They don't know what's in it. Probably is a burial or something. Maybe it's a UFO.
And they found it.
Oh my fucking God. Oh my fuck. Maybe it's a UFO. I don't know what it is. We ain't seen aliens, but it's a lot of niggas doing shit. But we just gonna say it's a UFO. Shut your stupid ass up, man. That's why y'all need to support the channel, man. Big Al breaking this information down. If you find any aerial device, it's either an ancient Cadillac or a BMW, nigga. It's a flying mobile. It may be a submergible. Who knows, nigga? But it ain't come from no fucking aliens, nigga. Fuck wrong with these stupid ass niggas, man.
Yeah, ground penetrating radar gave them the size and the shape, but they actually found it quite by accident. They were trying to drill.
It might be a UFO, but it ain't come from aliens, though. That's what I'm saying.
A drainage tube down into that mound because it started eroding. These are earthen mounds, so it was eroding. So they decided to put a drainage hole in the top of it, and they started drilling down. They hit stone. Then they went in from the side, and they used a much bigger drill, and they wound up destroying 2 stone bits. It's granite. And they drilled some 40 feet through stone and never got through it all, but they apparently went through it from the side and drilled right through the roof. But so they don't know what's in it.
Man, please hit that like button as you come into the live stream. It's very, very important for you guys to hit the live stream and the like button, man. Share the live stream. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can get all your latest updates and notifications to the live stream. Hey, man, if y'all feeling the bill, man, support the channel. You know what I mean? Support the channel. If y'all feeling the bill, support the channel.
And they brought in ground penetrating radar and discovered all that. And they drilled some 40 feet through stone and never got through it all, but they apparently went through it from the side and drilled right through the roof. But so they don't know what's in it. Then they brought in ground penetrating radar and discovered all this. But it's a huge mound. Now, some of these large mounds actually had stone casings on them. They would use flat slabs of stone. To my knowledge, there were 5 or 6 of those that were here when the Smithsonian came in the early 1800s and started looking. However, all the stone slabs were removed by early settlers who used them for building projects.
So they're in essence, that's like a regular pyramid that you would find down in Maya land.
Close. Some of them actually were very close, and they had steps built into them like that. And
wow.
Endo de Soto actually talked about the steps going up and down to them, and how they had stones lining the steps, and they had large logs forming steps. And these were very well maintained. They were very, very substantial structures. The large flat top mounds, of which there were thousands, were usually used to house the elite, which would be the chiefs, the priests, the...
That's how you know they wasn't dirt mounds, Hawk School. A damn drill go right through dirt. It's going to have to hit something that's stronger than that drill bit and the mechanics behind it to break it. Dirt ain't that goddamn strong, man. We had solid structures, man.
Shaman, sometimes the medicine men and medicine women, and all the other rulers of the society. They were arranged in huge complexes that sometimes had been enclosed 300 to 400 acres. Cahokia, for example, has 120 pyramids in the city. And the city is known to have had at least 20.
Did y'all hear what the nigga just said? I'm going to run it back for y'all. 120 pyramids just in the St. Louis area. Nigga, in Cahokia.
Society. They were arranged in huge complexes that sometimes had been enclosed 300 to 400 acres. Cahokia, for example, has 120 pyramids in the city. And the city is known to have had at least 25,000 people. It was bigger than London in the year 1200.
It was bigger than London is in the year 1200. So in the year 1200, we had more people there than you have in England today or in London today.
And compare that with those 300 to 400 acres. Cahokia, for example, has 120 pyramids in the city. And the city is known to have had at least 25,000 people. It was bigger than London in the year 1200. And compare that with Egypt. Egypt has, I believe now it's 108 known pyramids. Cahokia, Illinois, Cahokia Mound Complex has 120 known mounds. So it has more in that one place than all of Egypt does.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, when you describe the
that nigga just went hard body. That nigga said St. Louis got more pyramids in that one spot than all of motherfucking Egypt. Damn. Fuck them up, gang.
Cahokia, Illinois, Cahokia Mound Complex has 120 known mounds. So it has more in that one place than all of Egypt does.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, when you describe the inner structure of this one mound, is that typical with the bigger mounds? Is that a kind of an infrastructure they built in to keep the size and shape?
Well, sometimes it probably was, but other times we know that when
y'all want me to put together something in St. Louis, book me, man. We'll put together something real nice in St. Louis.
Ruler died, they would sometimes cremate the ruler inside the structure, and then they would cover it up as a tomb, and then they would construct a larger mound over it. And this would go on again and again. You know, like in Mexico City, near Mexico City, Teotihuacan, a lot of the pyramids are built over pyramids. Yeah. It's like they had one pyramid and then
that means somebody came and redid it. They didn't build it, they renovated it. You see what I'm saying? They didn't originate it, they restored it. You understand me? So this happens throughout history. We still restore ancient buildings today. So that's what you see them people was doing back then. That means they had honor and respected the craft of the architecture there to a point where they wanted to save it and preserve what was left.
Build another pyramid on top of it, and then another, making them bigger. The same thing happened with a lot of these large platform mounds in North America.
Wow. Do we see the same kind of a generational shift that we have in, like with the Maya? And when I say that is what I mean to say is that in a lot of the ruins, the pyramids, the buildings that we see now in Mexico, every 20, 30, 50, 100, maybe even 1,000 years, they begin modifying the new chief, the new ruler, the new king will modify buildings for him. He wants his legacy left, and so they don't. Rather than tearing the buildings down, they modify. Do we find that with the mound builders as well?
I've never been asked that question, and immediately what comes to mind, and the only thing I can think of, is that there were 3 distinctive eras of Native American mound building. Really, there's 4, but the first one is a little unclear as to what it was. But there were the earliest ones were the Adena mounds, which were these huge conical mounds that had loads of burials and these giant tombs within them. And then you have Hopewell, where they started building these earthworks, these geometric earthworks, circles, squares, octagons, really strange formations. And that the Mound Encyclopedia has illustrations of them, and they defy description. The truth is, I can't describe what these sites look like. And even looking at them in a book, you can't imagine what it is till you go and see it. And you go, oh my God, I had no idea. Well, those earthworks continued after the Hopewell period, but that's when called the Mississippian era, they started building these massive platform mounds for the chiefs. So you had this kind of progression of mounds from the conical mounds to the construction of these earthworks, and then they added these giant platform mounds. But I don't see any sites where they did the same thing, where someone would come in and modify it. Instead, I believe that sites sort of died. And what I mean by that is when the alignments were no longer valid at a site, the alignments to the sun and maybe the alignments to the stars because of the precession of the equinoxes, they would abandon the site and move and build another. And that's one advantage to building in earth. You're not really leaving a great deal. It's not like a stone structure. You can always build easier with earth. And that's another thing. The Native Americans could have built.
Listen, I'm just going to let you know, when you say Native Americans, just substitute that bullshit with Aboriginal. Because they be using that term so bullshitly loosely. You know what I mean? That's some bullshit. But yeah, he mean Aboriginal, man. The original motherfuckers 100,000 years ago. Well, no, he just told you them people got here at 12. What's wrong with you? Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Support the channel, man. Make sure y'all support the channel. You know what I mean? Support the channel, man. Hit that like button. Share the live stream. Let's continue. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Let's go.
In stone. But they chose to build in earth. They had a simpler and probably more spiritual way of life, a different kind of spiritual way of life than did those in Central and South America. There's a big difference in their spirituality.
Let's talk just briefly on these mound, their functionality. You, in the very beginning of the program, described how one mound, or perhaps a type of mound, was aligned to the shifting of the moon. Some of them were shifting to the seasons, the sun setting, the sun rising, so on and so forth. What else do we know about these mounds that is used for either crops or seasonal shifts or anything that is of the unusual?
Well, obviously they used them for timing. They watch the movements of the sun, and the sun has very predictable movements, and they time the seasons, tells them when to plant. They know when to harvest and so on. The movements of the moon were more related to determining the.
Yo, shout out to Chief Baspo. Shout out to Baspo Tuscaloosa for the Cash App donation. Shout out to Baspo Tuscaloosa for the Cash App donation. We appreciate all the support over here, man. You know what I mean? I've been rocking out for like 8 days, 7 days in a row. Nothing but heat. And I'm going to keep it going, man. Y'all keep hitting that like button, keep sharing the live stream, and keep on supporting the channel, man. We're going to keep bringing this heat. This is an exclusive interview. You can't find this. The interviews I've been playing, you can't find them on YouTube. I had to pay a subscription to find this shit.
eclipses, and eclipses were used in rituals. And I believe there are subtle energies, electromagnetic energies involved with that. There's a phenomenon called the Elias effect that very few people really know about it. The U.S. Navy has studied it for years. During a full solar eclipse, gravity actually falls in the umbra, in the area directly under the eclipse on the Earth. There is a temporary dropping of gravity, which is totally unexplained, but which has been shown to be valid. And I believe they used that to do certain rituals that involve subtle energies. The one thing that we do know that archaeologists have actually made available to us is that mound sites and earthworks were used for one ritual called the death ritual. That's what that Path of Souls is all about. And that ritual involves sending the souls of the dead to the stars, specifically to a part of Orion, which is Orion's nebula, and then to the Milky Way, and then north up the Milky Way toward the Cygnus constellation. Orion was seen as a dangling hand, a severed hand. We see Orion's belt today as a constellation, but they saw it as a severed hand. And in the hand was what looks like an eye on their symbols, and that eye is actually an ogi. It's spelled O-G-E-E, and the word ogi means a portal, a slit, or an opening. So Orion's nebula, Messier 42, is actually a slit in the sky. So at a particular time of the year, and generally it is the winter solstice, they performed a ritual that sent the souls of the dead. Then it made a leap to Orion's nebula in the morning, right before Orion set into the western horizon, right before sunrise. The next night, Orion rose in the east, and then that soul was supposed to make a small jump to the Milky Way and then proceed north to the Cygnus constellation, which was seen as a great eagle or judge in the north. If it passed that judgment, it went through another ogi, or a slit in the sky, a portal, and it could go to the other world, the world of the ancestors, or what we might call heaven. So knowing that has enabled me and others to.
He's giving you some of the North American cosmology. And what's funny is about that is that when you get into the cosmology and you look into the symbolism of what they say the sky is, you see a ripple. It's like a wave. Either it's a wave symbol or a ripple symbol. And that's not symbolizing outer space to me. That's symbolizing that the way in this split to these other realms and to this other galaxy is through the water. And that's why our ancestors was highly infatuated with water throughout history, built some of the greatest temples and structures by waters, built on top of waters. And then one of the most craziest and advanced civilizations that you hear alluded to allegedly in the history is Atlantis, that was built on top of water. So water is a very strong presence in ancient American Aboriginal cosmology.
Use certain kinds of stellar computer programs and look at mound sites, and using GPS, precise GPS, and these star computer programs, we can tell exactly why they made these mound complexes and earthworks with the alignments they did. So what they did is they built loads of sites that could target the rising of Orion and the setting of Orion on the winter solstice. They also targeted the sunset and sunrise of the winter solstice, and they also targeted the setting of Cygnus on that day. They used between mounds and other mounds. They used corners and openings in some of these earthworks. And that is for certain. That probably is the ritual that we know more about now than anything else they did. Okay. And they used mounds were magic machines. That is the best term to think of them. They were magic machines.
Mounds was magic machines. He said that's the best way to look at it. Look at this.
That is for certain. That probably is the ritual that we know more about now than anything else they did. Okay. So, and they used mounds were magic machines. That is the best term to think of them. They were magic machines that created sacred spaces, that channeled the movements of spiritual energies. It channeled the movements.
Spiritual energies. Like, that's why this nigga going in low key. Y'all, man, listen, hit that like button, man. Hit that like button, man. He's saying some shit, but he's saying some bullshit too. Shout out to the Cash App donation from another anonymous person. They want to stay anonymous. I appreciate the Cash App donation. We appreciate all the support over here. Appreciate that, man. Keep it up, man. Keep supporting the channel. Shout out to that brother or sister for donating to the platform, man. We appreciate that. Let's continue. Chief Holiday, you want to say something real quick before we get back into this bag?
Yeah, man. Appreciate you bringing this heat, man. Hey, what's this Buster's name, man? First off, while we checking this
situation. I'll tell you later, man. I'll tell you later.
All right. Well, I want to say peace to all American Aborigines, man.
His name is Greg Little, though.
Okay, heard of this Buster. All right. So here's the problem, right? Terminologies is everything. You know what I mean? When we talk about mounds, just put this in perspective, okay? Before there was metallurgy and right, and being able to carve stone and do certain things, our ancestors used the basket weave technique. And when I say our ancestors, I'm being specific because they like to say Native Americans built this, but there's no Native American gonna tell you that they know anything about any mound, earthworks, or anything here in America because they did not have anything to do with it. Okay, this is the American Aborigine stuff. This is our ancestor stuff. This is our shit. So mounds predate stonework. Now, what's interesting that he talks about is about them like stone, like generations that came after built on top. Like it's just like you renovation. There's different renovations that happened, right? Stonework went on top of the mounds, right? But when these people came here, they took the stone off the pyramids, let's just say in Cahokia, right? And they used the stones to build, let's just say the St. Louis Cathedral is one of the places that they built, right? But I love how they love to say that the top of them were flat. And that's where, you know, we had, no, they took the capstones off the top of these pyramids, if it's what you want to call them. After they, as well as they took the stones off of them to leave them flat and excavated on the top. Okay, so it wasn't flat on the top. Like, oh, these was platform mounds and all this other shit. No, these were pyramids that were excavated and tore down and made flat on the top. And I've been teaching this for a while. So once again, AP, we do have to, you said something earlier, that we have to start writing our own story. We have to correct these air quote scientists or people who are reporting on our land and our ancestors' accomplishments. You understand what I'm saying? And they're trying, not trying, they have written us out of history. If there's, think about it. If you even had in your old African mind, right, it would be like them trying to write your ass out of African history, right? Guess what? You don't have no African history. You don't have no African accomplishments. You don't have no African human bones that you can attach yourself to. We have all this here in the Americas, and it's just like they want us just to close our eyes and don't look at it. And that's essentially what we have done. A lot of us, we drive right past these mounds every day, and they're hidden in plain sight. So I just want to say that as we go forward in this video, brother. I appreciate you bringing this heat. It's gonna be a double header as I'm coming right back with some North American pyramids uncovered here in America, man. Y'all know we got heat all day, man. So it's the GOAT.
I can't wait. Let's
with
get
the
back
boat.
to it, man. Shout out to everybody in the chat.
That's
yeah,
right.
Man, shout out to Chief Holiday, man. Make sure y'all hit that like button, thumb up the video, man. We're gonna get right back into the live stream. Make sure y'all support the real, man. Hey, we coming with heat, man. Y'all know how we do it.
And they used mounds were magic machines. That is the best term to think of them. They were magic machines that created sacred spaces that channeled the movements of spiritual energies. It channeled the movements of people and souls, and they also enclosed spiritual energies. They would manifest spiritual forces within these sacred areas, and they had to control them. And a lot of this has been known through the secret societies within various tribal groups that exist still today. But a lot of it was written down in the 16 and 1700s by the first ethnographers that were accepted the tribal organizations.
You brought up something that I thought was quite telling, and I wanted to talk with you shortly or quickly about John Burke's book, Seed of Knowledge, Stone of Plenty. He actually goes to a number of mounds and did telluric field testing, and he discovered that some of the bigger mounds did actually sit on top of ley lines, which were producing and continue to produce really.
Nigga, I said that earlier. I don't need no nigga going there with some metal rods and electric shit. Nigga, I'm getting this shit from my DNA telling me this shit. When I say that all the pyramids was built on ley lines and mounds, nigga, I ain't read that in no book. That came straight from out the DNA. That's called tapping into the memory cells. You gotta be one of them ones. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be one of them ones. We can all do it because y'all all one of them ones in the chat. So make sure y'all tap into those memory cells, man. You don't let these people tell you your history.
Unusual magnetic fields. Now,
your ancestors passed down real documented history from memory cell to cell to cell to cell until your ass got a piece of the cell. You feel what I'm saying?
It must be that not only did these builders know that they were building on top of these energy fields, but as you say, they may have been able to actually manipulate them in a certain way.
Well, that's the whole idea here. Then the way that there's a scientific area that gets into this field, and they talk about subtle energies, and the word subtle means that it's not the kind of thing that most people can sense. There are some people that can sense them. We still don't have instruments that can really accurately tell what's happening in some of these intersection points. And by intersection points, they are fields of energy, and we know they exist. Skeptics like to say that, we don't feel any of that. That's all nonsense. But there is this large field in science that studies the effect of them. Some people are electromagnetically sensitive. Some people are electrically sensitive, and they can literally sense magnetic fields and the change in magnetic fields. And it's likely that the elite in some of these tribes, particularly the shaman, the priests, and certain medicine men and women, had the ability to sense these intersection points. We know today that some of them have to do with rock formations, the movements of water underground and where water emerges above ground, and then certain angles of earth that are created.
They know that already. Why you think they done lock down the dams? Why you think they shut down dams? Because the flow of water eventually will go underground, highlighting certain areas to be electromagnetic fields. Why you think they lock down federal land? Is mostly the national forests, where a lot of this natural water runs under the ground. So naturally it will be electric magnetic fields there. Man, listen, they been on this shit.
So they had some sort of knowledge we don't have. And the other thing is this: there is not a single person.
Hit that like button, by the way, man. We almost got 200 people in the chat. Let's try to get 200 people in here before we end. You know what I'm saying? Shut the live stream, y'all. Shut the live stream. We almost at 200. Let's try to get 200 in here. Hit that like button. Support the channel, y'all. Let's go.
Person listening to this who has their feet planted in the dirt outside. No one. And chances are almost nobody listening to this is going to do that at all during the day they hear this. And they probably don't do it much at all. Most of us are in a enclosed environment, either in a car, even walking on concrete. We wear shoes. We don't sleep on the ground. And we live in what's called an electromagnetic cesspool. Yeah. We are constantly bombarded with reversing electrical fields because we use AC current. There are wires all over the rooms that we're in, and there are electromagnetic waves being sent out by every radio station, every TV station, and now every cell phone in your city. And this is causing an electromagnetic interference. And so we are out of touch with these subtle energies. I'm not one that'll tell you that it definitely is caught.
He going in low key, man. Listen to my dude. He going in right now. Hit that like button. He going in. Let's get it.
Reversing electrical fields because we use AC current. There are wires all over the rooms that we're in, and there are electromagnetic waves being sent out by every radio station, every TV station, and now every cell phone in your city. And this is causing an electromagnetic interference. And so we are out of touch with these subtle energies. I'm not one that'll tell you that it definitely is causing things like increases in attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. There are some psychologists that believe that the increase in ADHD is due to all this electromagnetic interference. I've looked at their evidence. I'm not convinced, but then I don't know. That's not my field. But that some people truly are more sensitive to electrical and magnetic fields than others, and probably gravity. There are some people probably more affected by it than others.
I'm waiting for the day where they start developing technology that scans the person's body and can say, look, your energy field is working. By the way, you need to stay away from this area, this area, this area.
That's what Edgar Casey supposedly could do.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Another story, another time.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk as we come to the end of our time here. In your book, Path of Souls, the Native American Death Journey, you describe how the earthworks were used to assist souls on their death journey to the sky world. What does that mean? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but there's more of a significance, not just esoteric, is there?
No, it's not. We have funeral rituals today. We have places where we bury people. We have times of the week when we tend to do it. There are real specific rituals we perform. Well, they did too, but they had a different idea about it. They believed we had two souls. One soul was called a life soul, and it was the physical body. And the physical body they knew came from the earth. And the physical body is animated by a spiritual energy that's in everything. So they believed that needed to be returned to the earth. And that's why cremation was so important to Native Americans. When they didn't cremate people and they buried them in tombs, it's because they hoped that that individual would be reincarnated.
So you ask why you don't find many bones is because one of the ancestors' traditions was cremation. And obviously that's biodegradable. You don't have any evidence of it. It's back into the soil which it goes. You see what I'm saying? Often. So this is what you usually find. No evidence.
That's what that's about. Very similar to Egypt in a way. So they had these two ideas. So when they would return the physical body to the earth and say cremate it, that then released what is called the free soul, which is the real soul, and it's pure spiritual energy. And it was truly an energy being, but it could not just wander around on earth. So they performed a ceremony deliberately done to allow this soul to make its leap to the Ogi in the sky, which was.
Hey man, listen, if y'all feeling this build, support the channel. Let Big Aboriginal know y'all feeling it, man. Drop them fire emojis and support the channel, man. Cash out tags at the bottom right of the screen. Make sure you share this on all your social media outlets. If you ain't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Hit that notification bell. You want to hit that notification bell because you're going to get all your latest updates and notification to the live streams. Hey, this your brother Big Aboriginal Power. We got the Supreme Chief Holiday on this motherfucker with me. Let's continue the live stream.
Orion's Nebula. So they could only do it when this nebula was right on the horizon in the western sky. And during the mound building era, that was only around the winter solstice. There's about a 2-month period around the winter solstice where that can be done. So they had to time that ceremony. They had to do it within a specific sacred area so the soul would not wander out of the area. That's why they had these outer walls and these sacred enclosures. And in the middle, they'd often put a large burial mound, and they would build a huge bonfire. They'd get the wood ready and have the remains there. So on that night, they had to have a clear sky, so everybody had to decide when they were going to do it. The remains would be brought in. They would welcome everybody into this sacred area, and they would start this big bonfire. They also watched the Cygnus constellation setting to the northwest. It happened every night around the same time. They had a separate mound that was usually aligned to that because that was the final destination. So it incorporates both of those areas of the sky. The path of souls, or the Milky Way, they were actually seen as souls making this journey toward the north. That's what this band of stars, the Milky Way, was to them. So that was the idea, and they believed that we literally came from the stars. Edgar Cayce had the exact same idea, which is bizarre to me because I've always been a Cayce person. But he said that we came from the stars too. And we're soul beings that came there, and we'd entered into these physical bodies for a purpose. So they had, and our purpose here, I haven't even said, why are we here? Well, we're here. We're the only creatures able to appreciate two competing spiritual forces that exist. And the two competing spiritual forces are the force of creation and the force of entropy. Entropy is the breaking down of things. So things in our world look chaotic because things are always being created and they're in the process of being destroyed. The moment creation occurs, destruction begins. And so there's constant churning. Yeah. So our world was created, according to their belief, as a mirror, a three-dimensional mirror to reflect these two forces, one of which is in the upper world where our soul returns, and the other is a lower world. The lower world represented entropy. The upper world represented creation. That is a summary of the deepest beliefs that the ancient Native Americans had.
And I have to always touch on this, Greg, because I'm a bit of a Mayanist, and the Maya not only looked to the stars and were huge stargazers and astronomers.
What the fuck is a Mayan?
Hey, hold on, Al, man. I gotta say something, bro. Yeah. Huh?
Let me say,
yeah, that's just crazy. And I bet you he wouldn't even tell the people what Maya mean. But, bro, he keeps saying ancient Native Americans. There's no such thing as ancient Native Americans. And what he's doing is that he knows the concepts and he's pushing these concepts, right? But the worst concept, every time that he's making a comparison to England. Oh, well, they had this that come from the soil. Well, that means the Tonchans, right? But that's our cosmology story. Our origin story said that we sprung from this soil and we didn't migrate here. Let's just start there. They always like to push that story to the side, but that's our cosmology story, that we sprung from this soil. Now, what's interesting is, and we say this all the time, that you see any similarities of spirituality around the planet. Well, it had to start somewhere. And it didn't start in England. So even when we having these concepts and these conversations, and they're trying to compare it to England. Well, England, it was the size of England, and they're talking different time periods. Because when we talking 2000 BC, 10,000 BC, we're not having a conversation about what was going on in England and what they had there. They didn't have this going on there. They didn't have these systems going on in England. You understand what I'm saying? That's right. New, and they're writing themselves, and they're writing and he says we as if he's talking about his ancestors' accomplishments here in America, bro. Right. That's what they're doing, man. Like this is really, it's like I said, they can mix truth, right, and lies at the same time.
That's what they always do.
That's what they're doing, you guys. It's a fact.
Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. So what Chief Holidays is saying is dodge the hijack, bob and weave, eat the meat and spit out the bones, because we're here to break down and help guide you and get rid of the bullshit and filter through and get the good jewels that's inside this information. So let's continue the live stream.
To a high advanced degree, but they in their ancient texts and the elders who I spoke to believe that they are the descendants
of their elect. These two forces, one of which is in the upper world where our soul returns, and the other is a lower world. The lower world represented entropy, the upper world represented creation. That is a summary of the deepest beliefs that the ancient Native Americans had.
And I have to always touch on this, Gray, because I'm a bit of a Mayanist, and the Maya not only looked to the stars and were huge stargazers and astronomers to a high advanced degree, but they in their ancient texts and the elders who I spoke to believe that they are the descendants of ETs, and at some point thousands of years ago they had regular communication. Now I don't know, I didn't hear that their ships were seen and things like that, but
oh my God, here they go with this old alien bullshit. These niggas always trying to slide in aliens on nigga shit. God dang.
The logical conclusion would be that these off-world brothers and sisters were coming to Earth in ships. What do we know about that?
Well, I'll say what the Native Americans said. There are loads and loads of tribes, mainly more modern ones or historic ones, who say that we were visited by beings from elsewhere. They believe that some of their tribe came from the stars in physical craft. They have loads and loads of stories of energy beings coming from the stars. And some of them, like the Hopi, believe that they're going to come back someday. The Hopi really have a lot of beliefs about this. Some of the tribes in the Northwest have the same beliefs that we came from the stars. So you do see that rather consistently. So yeah, it's consistent. So you have two ideas here. One is that we're energy, spiritual beings, and the other is that physical beings came from the stars. And you actually find both of these beliefs in their lore and their legends. They're both there.
Wow. Greg, this is a fabulous piece of work, the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Native American Mounds and Earthworks. After you finished it, after you put it aside, all 508 pages of it, what were you left with? What was the impression? What's the takeaway that our listeners can get from you as to the not only the importance of building these mounds, but what is the vibrational focus? What is the takeaway?
Well, a couple things, and I'll try to summarize them quick. What we believe about the ancient past is only a tiny little piece of what really happened, and nobody really has the whole story. It's far more complex than anybody.
I literally just said that earlier in the live stream. He's literally damn near repeating what I said. That's great.
There are mysteries everywhere around this earth. Everywhere was crawling with people in truly ancient times. The things we find in North America are every bit as impressive as you can find in Central and South America or in Egypt. It's true that Egypt's pyramids are massive structures, but you go to Newark, Ohio, and you can be just as impressed with that as you can the pyramids in Egypt. But these things are everywhere. There are great mysteries there. And the truth is, they're in your backyard. Your listeners are mainly here in the Americas, and these things are in your backyard. And it's fun to look at. For one thing, it gets you out of the drudgery of this modern world. And
I'll run that back again. I don't think y'all heard him say what's in your motherfucking backyard. You know what I'm saying?
Egypt's pyramids are massive structures, but you go to Newark, Ohio, and you can be just as impressed with that as you can the pyramids in Egypt. But these things are everywhere. There are great mysteries there. And the truth is, they're in your backyard. Your listeners are mainly here in the Americas, and these things are in your backyard. And it's fun to look at. For one thing, it gets you out of the drudgery of this modern world and the electromagnetic cesspool we all live in. Go out to some of these sites and try to get yourself immersed into them and get yourself more balanced and a bit into spirituality. And I'd say that is the biggest thing. It's whatever it can do for you personally. You're not going to figure out what it all means. You can figure out what it means for you, and you can get yourself more balanced.
I like that. I recommend that on my shows here sometimes.
Hey, man, with that, man, I'm going to end the live stream right there. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed the bill. Man, it was some good information. Go back and eat the meat and spit out the bones, man. Eat the meat and spit out the bones. This was definitely one of them fire live streams. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed that out there. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man, for coming through. I need y'all to thumb up the video before y'all get out of here. Please thumb up the video. Please support the channel. Thumb up the video. Support the channel. Share the live stream, man. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Did y'all enjoy the bill? If y'all enjoyed the bill, drop them fire emojis. Drop them fire emojis in the chat, man. Drop them fire emojis in the chat if y'all feeling the bill, man. All right.
Man, fire bill, AP. Once again, bro, appreciate you digging, finding these people. I just think it's interesting that we take these guys at face value. You know what I mean? A lot of times, and I think it's interesting that we always have to go find pale skins to tell us something that we know within our bloodline.
Right.
And we know bullshit too. So there's no such thing as ancient Native Americans. We're talking about American Indians. We're talking about Aborigines. We're talking about the Tonchons of this land. Now, amalgamations have happened, right? But these people took our stories and reinterpret them the way they wanted to interpret them. So it's interesting how they take, you know, even when you talk about chematology, right? So is below is above, and all these concepts. That didn't like start everywhere at the same time, you guys. And if they have newer structures and less culture there, you know what I'm saying? And we have more here and it's older here. But this will be what is called ancient Egypt. Okay? So when we talk about Egypto-America, we talking about Negroes, bro. We're talking about, air quote, black culture here in the Americas that's older than anywhere else on the planet. And we talk about civilization, it's older here in America. Spirituality is a part of civilization. Food, you can't do anything without food. So all the foods and all the medicines and all the energy and the things that came from the Americas and went to the rest of the world, they just turning it back on us as if they did it first. So when you see the similarities in culture, you don't assume that the little guy, right? England, Kemet, anywhere else, you know what I'm saying? It is the originator of that culture or that science. And that's the problem. And I think that's why we're confused here in the Americas, especially a lot of us here in North America, because of all the indoctrination and the stuff that we're getting. So our cosmology story said that we sprung from this soil here in the Americas, just like a pine tree, just like the oak tree. So more information is coming, you guys, in the near future. I just want you guys to know that, and it's gonna blow your mind. It's gonna blow your mind. It's gonna blow your head all the way the fuck off.
Hey, let me give a special shout out to 2 a.m. I do got the gear. I will be wearing it sometime this week, taking photos in the 2 a.m. and also the Chief Holiday, the GOAT apparel. Y'all know I will be rocking that, man. Y'all know we dripping over here, man, in that Aboriginal gear. Make sure y'all shop Aboriginal at 2am.com. We are 2am.com, man.
That's right. Be on the lookout for that BAP.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so.
Yeah, man. Shout out to DJ Cut, man.
I need everybody in the live stream to hit the like button and to support the channel, man. If y'all want to support the channel, tag at the bottom right of the screen.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We about to get out of this. I appreciate all y'all for tapping in. Hey, run over there, subscribe to Supreme Chief Holiday. He's about to go live right now, right after this live stream. So if y'all want to keep some more of this information going while you're on your daily commute, run over there and tap in to Supreme Chief Holiday. We will be going live directly after this live stream, in which we about to get ready to wrap it up right now. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Make sure y'all hit the like button, thumb up the video. Hey man, support the channel, man. This your brother Big Aboriginal Power. We out, y'all. Peace.
Suave on the track.
Whatever it takes. Alleyway.
Coco, this your season right now.
They won't see me. They won't let me I gotta sleep with one eye open, tripping, making me nervous. I take a piss, my hand on the strap. I know the eyes wanna murder. I got a feeling, keep my stomach paranoid. Yeah. I won't let them, yeah. They won't see me, yeah. I gotta sleep with one eye open, tripping, making me nervous. I take a piss, my hand on the strap. I know the eyes wanna murder. I got a feeling, keep my stomach paranoid. Yeah. I can't let them, yeah. They won't see me, yeah. I put attention, all of my blood, all of my veins. They started with Perky, now that hair by numb is veins. You started with serving, now them drugs drove you insane. Started with dealing, I grew up with killers, they taught me the game. I got some niggas that die behind, and that shit won't never the same. I know some niggas that lie behind, and that bullet had his name. Ain't no reason to cry about, cause that shit won't never change. MTF the 4th and P, my niggas can't get out the game. I got sleep with one eye open, tripping, making me nervous. I take a